Alright guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an article titled, Women Have Been Conditioned to Lower Their Expectations. In an era of supported gender equality, we're still not demanding enough from our men. And guys, this article is obviously written by a woman. She's a young woman. She is a millennial, so I'm going to guess probably late 20s, early 30s. I looked at her picture, so I'm just guessing there. She doesn't say how old she is. This whole article is basically her, let's just say that she's a little bitter, and her view that women have been conditioned to lower their expectations when it comes to men. You know, that men get away with too much, and it's not a good thing. And saying how basically that women are not demanding enough of things of their men. But the last time I checked, the laundry list that your typical gal has for what she wants in a guy is pretty darn long. I mean, it's ridiculously long. And in terms of not demanding enough, if there's ever a period of time when women are more demanding, it's right now. So I don't know what she's thinking, and I don't know what she could possibly add to the list of demands. And so this is yet another example of, if people actually wonder why so many guys don't date anymore, or so many guys don't get into relationships, and more are not getting married, this is a perfect example of this type of crap. So I'm going to go through her thing here, point things out along the way, and you'll see exactly what I'm talking about. So it starts off, growing up as a millennial, big surprise there, I learned all too late that the rights that I have as a woman were very recently gained when considering the issue from a historical perspective. The 1970s ushered in a new wave of progressive legislation in the name of women's rights. This legislation included the recognition of marital rape, I'm speaking in code, and women's right to get a credit card, just to name a few. Think how devastatingly recent that progress was. What that ultimately means is that few generations that have been born thereafter are among the first who were able to live their whole lives in a time when women actually had all the rights that men did. Stop complaining. You can't change the past. Don't focus on something you can't change, okay? Enjoy it. Enjoy things how they are as they are right now. Don't get me wrong. Young women today still recognize that there is a lot of progress to be made. This is why we have the Women's March every year, and S-word abusers, I'm sure you can figure that out, guys, S-word abusers have been outed more in the past decade than they have in history. We continue to fight for our reproductive rights that are regularly threatened by the outdated Puritan values that still have too much influence on our nation's values. But men never seem to tire of telling us that besides a few here and there, we need to get with the program and consider ourselves equal already. To them, the pay gap is a myth that's mostly enforced by women's own choices in career paths. The pay gap is a myth. Get over it. To them, the fact that women earn more college degrees than men is irrefutable proof that we can put the issue of gender equality on the back burner. But despite all the political and legislative progress, I can't help but feel that we've failed to make the same amount of progress socially. So in other words, there's always some new injustice to confront and fix. It's never over. Guess what? Things are pretty darn good nowadays, okay? Seriously. But to people like her, to women like her, on this particular issue, it's never going to stop. It is never going to stop, okay? Our empowerment financially, educationally, and otherwise hasn't done enough to combat the gendered expectations that are conditioned in us. This has created generations of women who are capable of being on their own, but who sacrifice their self-esteem, self-worth, and dignity for a chance to be chosen by a man for marriage. Well, last time I checked, it's generally women that are pushing for marriage, because ultimately, regardless of how strong the woman is, nature's going to take over eventually. Not all, but most of the time. And the biological clocks will start going off, and they're going to want to breed. And a lot of women, even though they can be single moms, They prefer to get married, and also they want to get married to show that, hey, most women that are decent looking have no problem getting guys to sleep with them. But to get the guy to marry her, that's another thing, and giving her that status. Most of them want to get married and have children and have families. So it isn't just, what she says here is just waiting to be chosen by a man. It doesn't work that way. Generally, it's the women that are pushing the marriage. So come on here. She goes on, whether you agree with me or not, heterosexual women are socialized to make ourselves desirable to men. And in our attempts to do this, we've begun a race to the bottom. Not only are we capable of working and paying the bills, somehow that ability has come with no change in the expectation that we still put more time into keeping ourselves physically presentable, that we regularly take on the majority of the emotional labor, and that we silently endure the second shift at home. In other words, as you can see right here, she doesn't like the idea, in her mind, hey, we can do all these things, we're capable of all these things, getting great degrees, great positions in companies, making a lot of money, and on top of that, running a house and doing all that. Now, God forbid, we have to make ourselves physically desirable. In other words, she doesn't like the idea that women, in order to attract a man, have to have themselves look good, be visually appealing, so to speak. Guess what? As I've said before countless times, men are visual creatures. We are attracted to what we see. If you have a woman that takes care of herself, she's good looking, she takes care of her skin, has long hair, makeup, all that. Not too much makeup. She doesn't want to look like a clown. No guy wants a girl that looks like Ronald McDonald, but a little bit. Is thin, fit. She doesn't have to be super have an ass that you can bounce quarters off of, but just fit. Guess what? We're going to notice. On the other hand, if she's overweight, chops her hair, dyes her hair blue, has tattoos all over the place, dresses like crap, looks masculine as hell, guess what? We're not going to be attracted to her. And it doesn't make a difference how good of a job she has, how much money she makes, how much education she has, how cool she is, if that actually happens. Doesn't matter. So, women, if they want to attract a man, you need to take care of yourself physically. Okay? End of story. That's the first thing we notice. When we're out there, when guys are out, they're not noticing a woman and thinking, oh, I bet she has a great job. Oh, I bet she has a PhD. No, they're checking out her ass. They're checking out her legs. They're checking out her pretty face. Okay? Get over it. You want to attract men? You got to take care of yourself. End of story. And it doesn't mean that you do it early on, and the second you get a ring on your finger, that's it, and you can just let yourself go. No. You got to do it your whole life. Because guess what? We're going to do it too. At least the guys that know what the hell they're doing. But so many women get pissed off about this and get bent out of shape that, why can't he just be attracted to me for who I am or for the things I have? It doesn't work that way. And a lot of women think that men should be attracted to them as the way that a lot of women are attracted to men. Because for most women, looks are not the top of the list. They're important, don't get me wrong, but they're not the top of the list. But they love guys that have drive and ambition and status and money. But notice how a lot of them will talk about how, I have this degree and I have this status and I have this position at my work and I make this money and I'm capable of all these things. Why isn't he attracted to me? Because we're different. That's what women are attracted to in a guy, generally speaking, not the other way around. Okay? And it's the same thing when guys think, hey, I go to the gym 6 days a week, I got a six-pack, I'm 6 feet tall, and I'm good looking, but how come she doesn't like me? Why don't all women want me? Well, because probably you have a shitty job, don't have any money, no personality, you have no status, no game, so you're going to have to do these things to attract them, okay? But I'm going off here, guys, but this needs to be said. But some women get bent out of shape about this. You want to attract guys? You got to take care of yourself. End of story. Anyway, goes on. No matter how many rights and freedoms we've won, gendered expectations are a socialization issue, not a legislative one. Men are not solely at fault here. Well, for once, we're not at fault. Women are also at fault for allowing gendered expectations to thrive in the name of finding and sustaining relationships. At some point, we need to draw the line. Every article written by a woman who complains about her husband failing to take on more labor in the home seems empowering. But do we ever ask ourselves, what was she doing married to that guy in the first place? How do so many women go through dating and engagement and the early stages of marriage, failing to see what a glaring problem her low expectations were to begin with. So because the guy isn't doing all this stuff at home, maybe the guy is doing a lot of stuff in his job. She's not saying here whether that woman with this guy actually has a job herself. Okay? Now don't get me wrong, I think guys should definitely do their part. If you're going to live with a woman, and if you're going to be married, you can fucking cook, guys. You can cook on occasion, you can wash some dishes and bissel or vacuum on occasion, but the fact that it sounds like she wants guys to be doing this all the time. No. I'm as guilty as anyone of these behaviors. When I first met and started dating my ex-husband, I would take it upon myself to tidy up his room and do the dishes in the house I didn't even live in. I excused his messiness because, well, I never met a guy who was very clean to begin with, so I normalized and excused this behavior. If they weren't even together, let alone moved in together, and she was cleaning up his house, that's on her. He didn't ask her to do that. That's not her job. But obviously she was doing this probably to win favor with this guy. That's on her. I thought that doing these things to him would prove my worth, that's what I just said, prove my worth as a good woman and a good partner. But now I realize how imbalanced this was. How his level of nonchalance was directly proportional to my level of wanting to prove to him and that I could go along with it without complaint. Obviously, she was trying to attract a man. Why was she trying to attract a man? Because guess what? Most women want to be with a man, have relationships, or in some cases get married. And she mentioned, obviously, she's now divorced. Earlier, she said an ex. So they're all like that, you know. So there are things that aren't going to be perfect, okay? You may not like it that guys aren't going to clean things up as fast as you would or do it in the way that you want it done. But that's just, we're different, okay? And if you don't like how that's done, then stay single. Don't get involved with a guy. Don't get married. Just be home with your cat and write articles like this and bitch and complain. But guess what? Guys aren't always going to do things the way you want. Okay? That's just how it is. Having been raised by generations who heavily adhered to traditional gender roles, we've come to normalize these values whether we're conscious of it or not. Even a woman in a high-powered career making a six-figure salary is not immune to such socialization. So instead of letting this version of equality be a dream meant to be achieved by generations of women after us, we need to start demanding it for ourselves. Demanding it, huh? Good luck. This may mean being alone more than being partnered. This may mean never getting married or having children because there aren't enough men who live up to these expectations to go around. Frankly, we've got to raise the bar if we want our daughters and nieces to have better. Well, you're not going to have any daughters or nieces if all of a sudden you're all going to boycott men and stay single because, God forbid, we don't meet up to these unnecessary, unrealistic, and ridiculous expectations. Okay? You can't expect guys to behave exactly the way a woman's going to behave, and so on and so forth. But there will be a silver line to all this. As I've said before, I'm an animal lover, and I'm especially a cat lover. And there's going to be a lot more single women like her that aren't going to get married. That means a lot of cats are not going to be in the animal shelters. They're going to have homes. So invest in litter, invest in cat food, and things like that because you're going to make a lot of money in the future with this attitude going forth. And considering men receive praise for doing the bare minimum, not graping someone, blackout drunk, waking up to tend to the baby, cooking meals, or doing loads of laundry unprompted, staying faithful, etc., it has to be clear that the bar needs to be raised drastically. And much like grassroots movements, this change starts on an individual level. It starts with each woman who refuses to compromise on a higher standard. If you're a woman reading this, it starts with you. Translation: misery loves company. I'm alone. I'm bitter. I'm pissed off that things didn't go the way I want them to go. So I'm going to write these things, and then hopefully there'll be more unhappy, bitter, pissed off women just like me. We can all get together and bitch and complain. That's what this is here. But here's the deal. Again, with regards to the whole making themselves look appealing to attract men, that's what you have to do. You're not going to attract men if you don't look good. End of story. Or you will attract some men, but they won't be the quality men that you want. That's just how it is. We're visual creatures. Deal with it. Take care of your bodies. Dress well. Have long hair. Look sexy. Wear makeup. Do your nails. Don't do too much makeup so you look like a clown. Okay? And guess what? You're going to attract guys. And as for guys, doing all these things because the expectations are high around the house, guess what? I have news for you. A lot of guys do things around the house. A lot of guys in this day and age, we cook, we clean, we do stuff. Are we going to do it the way you want it to be done? Not necessarily, or in the time frame, but we're going to do it. So you're not going to get, if you want perfection, pretty much you got to be on your own, because otherwise it's not going to happen. So, all right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below, let me know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.